bearings. 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I am sure there were so many things that were going on in whatever building you're in. Floors are being waxed, desks are moved. I'm sure it's the whole pre-September time. So I understand. Give everyone another moment or two to come on in. Okay. All right. So as people start to trickle in, I'll just say good morning again because I want to be able to just address everyone as they enter. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Christina Zawacki. I am one of the directors over at Inspired Instruction. I appreciate that you've come to the August webinar. I know that we do these monthly. This one we're doing a little bit earlier. I think the last one we had done at around 10 a.m. as well. We figured we can kind of change up the time, especially in the summertime right now too, because it's right before the kids are all joining. So we figured it was a great time to talk about how we can support beginning teachers, especially in their first year. Part of the reason why we felt like this was an important topic. We'll see in the research, but a lot of our conversations with our partners and our clients are really about how we can provide that support. And it just felt very timely, especially now. We have a variety of people joining today, kind of in all facets, from superintendents down to the teachers and kind of everyone in between. So really important topic because we're all working together to have it be a successful year. So thank you again. Okay. So we will get going. So some of the things that I hope that we can all walk away with, and if you have any questions throughout the duration of our time together today, please feel free to just pop your question in the chat, and I would love to be able to address any of your questions or concerns. So we're going to look at the research first in order to kind of get a really good understanding of what we're headed into and why genuinely this has been a question or a concern top of mind and how to support those new teachers, especially the beginning year. We're going to focus on what administration can do to support those teachers. I'm just going to let everyone up in here. And then what we're going to do is focus on what we can do as educators, as teachers, to support ourselves and to support our colleagues during this, this first year that many are kind of embarking on this journey. So let's talk about the research. What kinds of things are we learning? What do we know? What made this be something that's, let's chat about this right now. So a recent survey on Statista, and there are resources at the end of the slide if you're interested in kind of honing in on those and digging a little bit deeper. A little bit more than 50,000 teachers and other educational staff left teaching as of June 2023. So it's kind of a staggering number when you really think about it, and I'm sure in conversations we can have a whole other webinar on the reasoning behind some of that, but I want to focus on the number and what that really means for what's happening and what's coming in September. So what does that mean for the upcoming school year if we have that number of teachers and support staff that have left? New teachers. For 23 and 24, the number of new teachers has increased dramatically. Just in my conversations alone, a lot of my meetings, we've had to kind of reschedule them at different times because they're interviewing, they are providing support to those new teachers, getting their credentials and having those conversations because of the number of new teachers. And the biggest thing, and I remember back, we're going 20 years now to when I was a new teacher, the biggest thing that I hear from admin and from teachers themselves is that in that time, they feel very overwhelmed. And I'm sure we can all appreciate that and understand that and empathize there. And they also feel isolated. So really, what does that do? Those two feelings are so huge. You can almost reach out and touch them, right? They're tangible, they're palpable. We can feel that. So what is the reasoning for that? Feeling overwhelmed and feeling isolated. And we know that ultimately that leads to burnout. which is, I'm sure, a contributing factor to why in June 2023, there was such a large, I'll say, exodus of teachers and support staff, right? So how can we mitigate that? What can we do as, let's say, administrators to support our new teachers, our beginning teachers, so that they don't feel that burnout, so that they stay, right? We don't want them to leave. We want them to stay. That's who's growing our young children. So here's what we can do as admin. There's a couple of things, and I want to share that a lot of the resources that we are going to provide to you will connect directly back to this. And you can see there'll be a little star on those resources that you'll get emailed to you specifically. But if there's anything else that I'm discussing and you're like, hey, Christina, I really like that, send me an email. We can have a conversation. Okay, I want to take a minute and just ask you to reflect on this quote. And I'm going to ask, when you're done reflecting, if you could pop in the chat, what is something that you already do as a leader that you feel helps to create an environment of growth? I would love to see your thoughts. So take a minute and then please share with me. I'd love to hear what you have to say. What's something that you do that helps create an environment of growth? Okay, Chris, thank you. Get to classrooms, give a simple compliment, something you see. That's huge. Everybody loves to hear something nice about themselves. And I think as a new teacher, we very often go home and think about some of the things maybe we did wrong. So to hear what you're doing right, I mean, that's like everything, right? Everyone just wants to hear, hey, great job. I think that's a wonderful thing because that really does foster growth, right? Having that feedback and presenting it in a way that there's that feeling of positivity, even when maybe there's something that you have constructive to say, I think is a huge thing. Thank you so much for sharing. So one of the biggest things that we can do, and if I didn't get to what you have in the chat, I'm going to continue to look at that. Kelia, thank you so much. Reflecting and providing opportunities for staff to be able to reflect. Yeah, reflection is a huge way to grow everyone everywhere. One of the biggest things that you can do as an administrator is have those PLCs, and we'll talk about what PLCs are, and I'll provide you with some really phenomenal resources to help you with establishing a strong foundation through those PLCs. So PLCs are professional learning communities, groups, really groups for your teachers to come together and develop those friendships and that collaboration with one another while having those academic, meaningful, professional conversations, those professional learning communities, because we are forever learners. And so by creating a space for your educators, for your staff to grow together and have discussions together, knowing that it's okay to sit and analyze and maybe have a respectful discussion, or a disagreement it's okay. If we don't have the same thoughts or opinion on some things, let's talk about it. Let's kind of develop and establish a way for us to grow through this together. It's huge. And when they feel better about these conversations, about what they're talking about, it trickles down into their students, right? It helps continue to foster a place of professionalism, comfort, safety, and the kids feel that, the students feel that, right? They're walking into a vibe where if their teachers are comfortable being lifelong learners, they're going to feel that. So, I mean, hugely important. And a lot of professions have these, powwow situations. They're having these meetings. And as teachers, we should really have those too. Let us be accountable for what it is we're talking about in a way that's positive. And I love in the chat, I just saw, being present, being visible. PLCs are a great opportunity to kind of join in where your teachers are and have those conversations with them too, right? Because then they know that you care. They know that you're there, right? It can be your way to check in while giving them a space to grow together. So how can we make sure that we're growing in a way that is low stress, high activity, high reward. Okay. By implementing specific ways for them to do that, really allows that playing field to be comfortable, where everyone can kind of meet one another. Just like we have group work with our students, when we do group work together, it improves our ability to interact with one another, sharing our thoughts in a way that I know it's okay. I can take risks, right? If I don't agree, if I want to try something new, maybe if I'm scared to try a different strategies or a certain type of scaffolding for my students, I haven't done it before, especially as a new teacher. Maybe there's somebody else in there that can give me some insight, allowing me to kind of see what they've done to learn from them. And then, I'm developing a level of trust because it's okay for me to be vulnerable in that PLC. It's safe. It's a safe space to learn and to grow. And then just like our students, right? It's conflict and how to resolve that. Teachers aren't always going to agree with one another because we're people. People don't always agree, and that's okay. But can we do it in a way that's respectful and professional? And then we learn something from that. And then if you do learn something new, how excited are you to turnkey that to your students, right? Because that's what it's all about. We're creating an environment of learning and growth for all of us. So really, it's a great way to help them become successful, because as a leader, that's what you want. When you're doing this with your PLCs, a lot of the confusion that comes from any type of group work with adults, with students, is confusion, right? I don't know what the norms are. I don't know what my goals are. And a lot of that time in the beginning is kind of eaten up by, well, what are we doing? Rather than getting started, 5-10 minutes turns into 15 of maybe your 42-minute PLC time that you have on Mondays, and poof, it's gone. So how can we make the most of our time and decrease the level of stress and frustration? Set goals. Just like you do for your students. Set goals that you can actually reach. Make them bite-sized, make them clear. They don't always have to be the same goal every meeting, but we want to make sure that our norms are there, right? So we can set whatever our ground rules are, whatever our group norms are, those things are consistent. Those stay the same. Have them be clear, have them written out somewhere, post them, right? I had my PLC binder, and we used a lot of these templates, and they were there for everyone so that there were no questions, no confusion. That consistency is key. It's like my PLC schedules and guidelines, like that was it. Okay. And go over them. Maybe someone wants to have a discussion about one of the group norms, and that can lead back to feeling comfortable to take those risks. Maybe someone wants to kind of address or clarify some misconception there. So this is one of the pieces that you'll be receiving. I put the little star there. I love a little gold star. This is a wonderful resource because it's a template that's already there. You can utilize this with your staff. Provide it to them, right? Give them the resource. They don't have a lot of time as it is, especially if they're a first-year teacher. So this is something that you can just print out, pop it. Maybe you have a Google Drive, or maybe you have a space in the office where you have a series of resources. Print this off and have it there. And these are just ways for them to even develop their own norms, just like we do with our students. When they take ownership over what's happening, they really feel it, they really believe it, and it makes it more meaningful. I mean, something right down to how are we going to participate in a PLC? Maybe you have a group of teachers who some are a lot more outgoing than others, and you are concerned that maybe they will speak over maybe a newer teacher who's not as comfortable. Setting those norms on how you're even going to interact completely alleviates the type of stress of somebody worrying about interrupting or offending somebody if they talk over them. And it really helps just, again, keep that playing field comfortable, level, and allows everyone to feel like they can contribute in a way that's fair and equal. So what are they going to talk about during PLCs? Have the agenda there. Have somebody set who's going to be the recorder. What are we going to use today? What time are we starting? What time are we ending? We've got a place for those norms. We've got a place for our goals. It's here so that we don't, again, continue to eat up any of that time. 42 minutes, if that's what you have, really isn't that much. So keeps everyone organized. It keeps anyone from feeling stressed. And you're providing this to them. So they're already feeling like, all right, I don't have to find something new. My admin is here for me. One of the biggest things, even when you're observing your teachers, and I love that a lot of the admin is saying being present, giving compliments, showing them that I care, being involved. Sometimes when you are with your teachers, it's during maybe their prep period, or maybe you kind of grab them as they're walking in and you ask them, hey, Christina, do you have a minute? I'd love to chat with you. Let them know their time is valuable. Having conversations with them where you're asking them questions that actually pertain to them and mean something is everything. And it's a huge way to show them that you genuinely do care about them and their growth. I love this resource, 12 questions that admin can ask new teachers. It's an excellent way to really get your teachers to understand that you do care about them, because the better they do, the better the students do. And at the end of the day, that's really all anybody wants. So there's these 12 questions here. I've got these 6 popped in. I'll put the rest of the 6 here. If you want to take a minute to just take a peek at these. And I'd love to ask if there's any one of these 12 that really stick out to you, and why. You can use the chat, feel free to unmute yourself, but if there's one that you had to pick, which one would it be and why does that resonate with you? Just give you a second, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay. So while you're typing in there, or if we're a little bit shy, that's totally fine. It is 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I happen to like question number 11. What area do you hope to strengthen as you move forward with your career and education, especially with new teachers? I like this one because in particular, it allows them a chance to share with you where they think they might need a little bit of support and a little bit of growth. And asking them this in a way that could even be more casual is disarming, and it lets them feel like I can share. I'm not perfect. They know that I'm not. Phenomenal. And that right there is like a moment for them where they can share with you like, hey, I think I could use a little bit of help here. And really it helps cultivate that relationship of care, right? Teachers, admin, we're in the school building and we give everything of ourselves. That's what we do. So when we know that the people that surround us every day care about us, of course, we're not going to feel alone. Chris, thank you. So you're saying you like number 12. A lot of people say they want to grow, but this gets them to think about how behind their plan to get there. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that one's a phenomenal one as well. So thank you so much for sharing. And feedback. Chris, I believe you said earlier you like to give them a compliment. A lot of times there's stuff we have to talk about that's uncomfortable. Constructive criticism. I mean, I don't even like to say criticism, but constructive feedback. We need that, right? We need to know the areas where we can grow, just connecting back to, even question number 12 in the previous slide. So how can we do that in a way that it's done quickly? It's specific to what we saw, right? If you have an observation, you don't want to wait a week before you give them that feedback. That creates stress too, because then they keep checking their email or their mailbox, waiting for the piece of paper in the envelope. And that kind of, lets new teachers, any teacher, feel like, where is it? I'm not getting the response right away. Did I do something wrong? And then that's it. We're living in our head. And sometimes we can just take our imagination to all the places. So give them the feedback that's timely. Maybe they have a lesson where, they rocked it, one day, and then you go back to observe them and there was some things you noticed that they could definitely work on. So that's going to change, right? It also depends on what it is they're teaching. Not everyone is super comfortable with all of the things that they're presenting to their students. So I love this. This is a pretty popular resource. This differentiated, feedback is excellent in terms of how you can kind of meet your teachers wherever they happen to be living in that particular lesson. Maybe it's an exceptional observation. Maybe you're noticing there's some spots where the support needed, and maybe you find that we need a little bit of additional help here. We're struggling in this particular aspect. So I love this one. You can pop in, if you type in enhancing coaching with differentiated feedback into inspiredinstruction.com, you can see that this is a pretty popular one, even in our social media news feeds. You can kind of see that one in there. I love this because it's a really quick go-to. It's like sentence starter stems too, just like we give our students ways to start written responses. This is a great way. So you don't feel like, I don't want to say something that Christina's she's going to sit at dinner tonight and she's just going to be focusing. How can I wrap this in a way where it shows that I care and I really just want to provide support? It's a phenomenal, I like this. It's a differentiated feedback kind of cheat sheet. And I love this one. Okay. So teachers, we've got some new teachers taking a peek at this webinar. We have some seasoned teachers taking a peek at this webinar. So what can we do as educators to support those first year teachers? Okay, I'll give you a minute to read this quote. I love this one because it's so true. This one really resonates with me. It matters. Every single day, it matters. I still remember like my favorite teacher from when I was in high school. I will never forget him. Every teacher appreciation day, I still reach out to him. They matter. I remember all of my teachers. They matter. And we know that too, which is why we give so much of ourselves. So the biggest thing is just be organized in your physical space, of course, right? We want to make everything welcoming, lovely. In our lesson planning, everything organized. Also in your day-to-day processes, right? The biggest thing for a new teacher is figuring out how to make everything flow in a way where it's nice and smooth, right? Establishing routines and procedures for everything you could possibly think of, right down to, I need to sharpen my pencil. If you're rocking and rolling and you're in the middle of a lesson and the kid raises their hand and you think they're going to share something wonderful and they're telling you that they have to go to the bathroom, you're like, so it's important to really establish those routines. So just, having a little bit of a checklist for everything that you think might pop up, how you walk into the classroom, right down to how you exit it. So plan out your processes. Think about all the things that they might do. Think about the things you did when you were a student in school and use that, because you can relate to that, because we were students in a classroom at one time. And planning out your lessons, however it works for you. I know a lot of schools might have a template that they prefer to use when they're kind of reviewing your lesson plans. Totally fine. If they don't have a template, we also have templates available. This is one of the templates. I love this one specifically because it's got those specific moments for my direct instruction. I've got my modifications that I would need, which allows me to, make sure that I reach all of my learners. I have my specific moments of independent practice and how I'm going to, assess my students throughout the lesson in order to kind of keep that data so that it guides me in my next lesson, and it helps me with those small groups. Just all those little things that new teachers, beginning teachers, might struggle with, because it's like, oh my goodness, there's so many things that we have to do. This is a great way to just have a spot to remember to do all of the things. And as you go through, you can physically check it off, which I love. I love checking something off because I feel accomplished, cross it off, check it off, feels good. And you're not alone. Look down the hall, open the door and look down the hall. Behind every single one of those doors is another colleague who may be a first-year teacher. Maybe it's not their first year teaching, but it's their first year in this particular school. And they feel like a beginning teacher because they're new to whatever this particular school's protocols happen to be. So open the door and find a friend. Teachers love helping one another. Love it. Absolutely love it. That's what we do. We are helping our students and we can help one another. So make sure you're taking time to make those connections, to establish those friendships. My teacher friends changed my life. They, and they're with me. They make every day better, because I eat my lunch with them when I can, or I pop in with a cup of coffee in the morning on my way to my classroom. And that's everything, right? So that's how we grow. That's how we take care of ourselves. Collaborate with each other, whether it's in the PLCs or if it's just walking down the hall to heat up whatever lunch you have in the teacher's lounge microwave. That's what we do, because it helps us do all of these things. It helps us here. Maybe somebody just did a phenomenal lesson and you have an observation coming up on a similar skill or similar standard. Talk to them about it. There's no reason why you should feel uncomfortable saying like, hey, Danielle, I'm stuck here and I'm super stressed out and my kid was up all night and I'm exhausted. Could you talk through this with me? And do you have any extra coffee? There's no reason why you should feel like you've got to go it alone, because you're not alone. You're in a building filled with people. Mentors are a wonderful thing. Some schools provide them, phenomenal. Some schools, they don't necessarily have a protocol where they assign you a mentor. Find one, find a mentor. First day of school, you're decorating your classroom. Someone's going to come by and say hello. Ask them if, hey, can I come and ask you some questions? I'm still super new to this. And really think about this, be self-reflective. Earlier on during our chats, I know that somebody said like allowing them an opportunity to reflect. I believe, Kelia, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. You had said reflection. This is a great just checklist for you to take some time to reflect as a new teacher or beginning teacher on what you genuinely need. And it connects back to those 12 questions as well that administrators can ask. So even something like this as an admin too, if you want to pull some things that you can discuss, this is a great thing too, even as a mentor. There's a lot to do during the day as a teacher. Can't do it all. You're not going to get to everything. So figure out what you want to get to and just stick to that. Make it manageable. Maybe pick 4 things. If you've got a list of 20, you're going to look at that and you're going to feel like, like the walls are closing in on you. I feel like it's like my laundry basket, like I always say I want to do my laundry. I'm going to do my laundry. I'm going to fold it while it's still hot out of the dryer. It never happens. I cannot even tell you how many piles of clean laundry I have that I look at it and I don't even want to go near it because it's so much. And it's totally, totally overwhelming. So let's think about how we can manage all our things, right? What can we do to prevent us from feeling like my head is spinning? I'm never going to get to this. So set some clear priorities. I'm feeling very AP Bio Punnett Square right now. Like I'm having all the AP Bio feels. I love this. If you've got 4 things that you're looking at just think about, like, what do I have to do right now? What do I have to do before the end of the day today? Stick that in the do it now box. What can I do? Maybe I can do it, before I leave if I get to my yellow box first. Stick that in the planet section. Ask for help. Who can I phone a friend here? Maybe it could be my mentor. Maybe it could be my neighbor. What can I do? And then something that you want to do because you want to. Do you need to do that? Does that have to happen? If it's not a must do, just X that puppy off and get it out of there. You don't have to do everything right away. Do what you can do when you can do it. Stick to this. 4 things is a lot more manageable than a to-do list the length of your arm. And it feels way less awful if you look at it in this way. The bottom line, admin, you are there to help them learn, to help them grow. Let them know you care about them and that their time matters to you. And be clear, it's never a gotcha. Let them know that it's not a gotcha. They want to do well. And teachers, there is no such thing as a perfect teacher. None. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to learn constantly from week to week. You might change how you introduce a lesson. That's totally fine. But you're never in this by yourself. We are forever learning from one another, and your colleagues are your very, very best resource. Just open the door and just give a holler. I guarantee you someone's going to come out and say, hey, I'm here. What do you need? Okay. So I know this was a quicker one because September is coming. I'm going to pop this in the chat. I would love your feedback. Don't mind all of my tabs. All the tabs are open all the time. I would love to hear your thoughts. I just popped the form in the chat. Next steps, you are going to get all the resources that had a star in the next few days. You'll get an email with them. It'll be a hyperlink to a PDF. You can download it, stick it on your desktop, print it out, leave it in your offices for sharing. And that's pretty much that for today. I really appreciate your time. Again, I'm Christina Zawacki. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. It's down there at the bottom. It's Christina with no H. And there I am, christina.zawacki@inspiredinstruction.com. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Because I'll stick around. If not, you're welcome to, once you're done with that survey, you can head on out, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your Tuesday. Thank you for spending your time with me.